Sabr, as the scholars mention, patience, is reactive. وَاصْبِرْ عَلَى مَا أَصَابَكَ. For the most part, it refers to difficulties that come your way and you are patient. And the prophets were exemplars of patience. When we struggle in life, when Allah Azza wa Jal tests us and we respond with sabr, we are manifesting something incredibly beautiful and that only a few people in humanity can actually live up to. May Allah Azza wa Jal make us amongst them. Allahumma ameen. When we respond to harm with patience, wallahi, you see these people in Palestine, you see these people in Gaza, the clarity of thought when they are facing the ugliest mechanics of slaughter is absolutely incredible and mind-boggling. I listened to that recording, as I'm sure many of you did, of one of the paramedics whose name was also Rif'at, like Rif'at al-Arid, the poet, rahimahullah wa rahimahullah. And the clarity that he had when he was repeating the Shahada, the clarity that he had when speaking to his mother, the clarity he had when speaking about his mission to save the people. He was only 24 years old. 24. How do you have that type of clarity at the age of 24 years old? Being shot at and burned. And he's a paramedic. How many ripped bodies has he dealt with before his body was ripped itself? How does that 9-year-old in Gaza have the clarity that he has of mission and purpose? It's not just patience with the pain. It's patience with the perspective that's so admirable. Sabr refers to the reactive component of when difficulty comes to you. Azm, as the scholars mention, is the proactive component of determination of going forward with your mission. Azm, in fact, as the scholars of language mention, is even more comprehensive than the word hazm. I don't want to get you all lost, subhanAllah, in these words, but they're rich. Hazm is to hold yourself as you're moving forward. Azm is to fuel yourself. It's like when the Prophet ﷺ says, Saddidu wa qaribu. There's an element of moving forward and there's an element of keeping the balance. Azm is moving forward with patience, with perspective, with purpose, with mission. You're not just here to survive. One of the ways that we lost ourselves in many non-Muslim majority countries is we got so busy fighting Islamophobia that we forgot that we're supposed to also be teaching people about Islam and living Islam. It got so defensive about who we aren't that we forgot to tell people who we are. It became so much about trying to survive hate that we forgot to teach people the love of what comes from our beloved Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We took on the element of survival without mission, survival without purpose. It still can happen to where some of us could start to say, you know what? The goal is just to be able to pray, to be able to say La ilaha illallah, to be able to go out and be ourselves and not get killed in the street. Is that our purpose as an ummah? Is that all? To just survive? I tell you, dear brothers and sisters, if the people of Gaza understood their purpose on earth to just survive, we've already seen the plans. They could be built beautiful settlements outside of their land, have all the buildings and the care that they want, while the devils do what the Holy Land, what they want to do. But they say, سوف نبقى هنا. No, we're staying here. Not because of the land, but because of the Lord of the land, who commanded us to be here. And if the ummah has forsaken its responsibility to Al-Aqsa, we will not forsake our responsibility to Al-Aqsa. If the ummah has turned its back 2 billion can't do anything, then 2 million will stand up for it. We're not going anywhere. That's not normal to someone who doesn't understand faith. But this is not a matter of survival. This is not a matter of physically making it through. This is a matter of pushing it through. That's why if you think about, subhanAllah, our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was given many comfortable arrangements to forsake some of his message. وَدُّوا لَوْ تُدْهِنُ فَيُدْهِنُونَ. They wish you'd compromise, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They would willingly compromise. You see, the way that a bully works is that they make your life so miserable, so unbearable, that you have no choice but to come back to the bargaining table and bargain for less than what speared your existence in the first place. And so they wanted to break the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, boycott and starve the Prophet ﷺ and his people for 3 years. Sound familiar? Put them under siege. We won't let a single ounce of aid go in to Shi'b Abi Talib. Does it sound familiar? We'll make it so difficult for them that some of them will have to do hijrah to a land that's not theirs and go into the great unknown to Abyssinia. Does it sound familiar? And hopefully if we break him enough, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and then offer him something sweet at the table, bring him in and say, hey, look, what do you really want? You've been starving. You want to be a king? We killed your wife. Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha died due to the circumstances of the boycott. You can have any woman in Mecca that you want. You want money? We'll give you money. You want power? Right now you can't even walk out in the streets without being harassed. We'll give you power. But you've got to let go. That's why he's ulul azm. That's what makes the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam a person of great determination. That he never forsakes his mission, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He never forsakes his message, despite the pain that's being inflicted upon him. He will not concede on anything that will fundamentally undermine his message. By the way, it's the difference between the moments of torture that the Prophet ﷺ faces in Mecca versus Sulh Hudaybiyah. A person that wants to compromise on the religion will Hudaybiyah themselves out of anything. Use Hudaybiyah to justify normalization with the Zionist entity. Use Hudaybiyah to justify every single concession of faith. Use Hudaybiyah to justify this. The Prophet ﷺ compromised. The Prophet ﷺ compromised. There's a difference here. In Mecca, when they told the Prophet ﷺ that you worship our gods for 1 day of the year, this is Nihayat al-Kalam, the end of the contract, the end of the compromise. Just worship the idols for 1 day a year. We'll worship your God for the entire year. From a pragmatic perspective, you could have argued that, hey, are people really going to worship Allah and listen to the Quran every day of the year and not become Muslim? But the Prophet ﷺ knew that this condition was so batil, was so false, was so negating and invalidating at the start that it had the potential to compromise the fundamental of the message. And he rejected it, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, despite being in a much more vulnerable position than he was in Sulh Hudaybiyah.